these metrics. Okay, so welcome everyone. This is a good friend of mine, Eli Adelson, and I'm so excited to have him here on the group today and on my Facebook page today. He is a dating coach for women, and I know that all the women are really excited to hear the male perspective. And I'm really excited to have him on as well because he has a really interesting story. He has he started meditating at 4 years old. Is that right, Eli?
Yeah, that's what I'm told anyway. Like, I don't really remember that. And I just want to say thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So Eli and I have met through a mutual entrepreneurial group. And so I'm really excited actually to be involved working with other dating coaches because I got into the coaching thing just because it's my personal story and it's my passion. And I would love to hear a little bit about how you got into dating coaching and how this amazing story, if anyone is listening today, be sure to read the bio on Eli because he's got this amazing story of spiritual pilgrimage from Tibet to Uluru to Thailand to Sri Lanka to India, Chichen Itza and beyond. So curious how all of this weaves together with your journey into becoming a love coach, a dating coach for women.
Yeah, so quite accidentally, actually. I didn't really know why I was doing what I was doing at the time. I was just purely interested in all the spiritual travel. So I would go to these places. My first country was Japan, and I just went temple hopping in Japan, and then to Australia, where Uluru and Karajuku and these Aboriginal places are spiritual places, and then to Thailand, and then so forth. And then it wasn't until probably like 3 months ago when I kind of put it all together that, so wait a second, the majority of my travel throughout the years for the last 14 years has been for spiritual purposes. And I put it together and was able to kind of consolidate, for lack of a better word, all of these energies, these pure source energies from all of these spiritual places, to have this blessing that I can share with people so that they can get the effects of all these spiritual pilgrimages without having to deal with the money, the flights, the cost, the food poisoning, any cultural differences or culture shock. And as I'm doing this, I'm also completely smitten by my own personal development, becoming more confident, becoming more loving to myself, and having this solid mindset and resilience. So along the way, I just happened to read, I think it's like 162 books now that I'm at, and some of them multiple times. And then I would have these conversations with friends where at first it was dating for myself, and it's like, oh, now we're in this situation and these sorts of things happen, and now we're going to overthink it and analyze it, and you should never overthink anything. But anyway, we all have to learn, right?
Yeah. Do you mind if I just ask you a little bit? I love this idea of traveling to all these different spiritual places and absorbing the spiritual energy
Yeah.
to the point where you feel like you're a container, like a sacred container of spiritual energy that now is overflowing, and you can offer that blessing to others. And then along this journey of self discovery and spirituality, you have come to realize that we tend to overcomplicate things. Is that what you're saying? So we overcomplicate things with our minds. And this whole journey into love is really about heart, right? So there's a wisdom and a deeper knowing in the heart in this journey to love, and in this kind of spiritual interweaving of all these energies. So is that kind of what led you into being a dating coach?
Somewhat. It was, so a good friend asked me they're like, oh, I have all these things in my life that are really going well for me. Like, I'm financially stable. I'm making enough money where I don't have to worry about this. My like, I have a house and everything. I'm good. And my spiritual progress, that's the word. Yeah, is really good. But I'm having trouble with these relationships, and I'm having trouble with this flow of love in my life, and I'm just like, oh, I can help you with that if you want, because I had to do it myself, and mine wasn't the most comfortable experience because I had to deal with multiple breakups and like strandedness, isolation, loneliness, and just pure confusion in a lot of different situations, because I was just putting too much pressure on myself, and just constricting how things could come to me and what could come to me, which I don't think my mom says I'm special, but I don't think I'm special in this way, where I'm the only one that's done this to themselves.
Yeah, so in a way, I love that. Okay, so much pressure on yourself. You're having these like super transcendent spiritual experiences. And yet when it comes to real life, there's this blockage and this feeling of isolation. And spirituality is it's this deep connection with something greater than ourselves, something so profound and beautiful. And we feel like we know it. We're having this like, wow, this heart-opening, expansive experience. Then when we come into real life, there's this moment of, well, where is all that in real life? How does it translate? How can I now bring all of my experience, my understanding to real life experience? And I think actually that takes us into this concept of becoming a beacon for love.
That's exactly where I was going with that.
Yeah, let's hear about it. So let's hear about it. How to become a beacon for love. If you would share with us some of the principles around that and what it is that you stand for here.
Yeah, so there's so many different facets to it, but it kind of boils down to 3 main principles, and we'll briefly touch on them and kind of see where the conversation takes us. But the first is opening up for it. And like I was saying, for me, I was so constricted into thinking that things could only come to me a certain way, like relationships could only come to me a certain way, money could only come to me a certain way, that it just put blinders on, and it blocked any other possible outcomes, because that just wasn't a possibility in my awareness. And then it was having to expand that awareness and say, oh, like, let's play with this. It's maybe this is possible, and if it is possible, what would that look like? And if this is possible, if it's possible for me to meet a girl at a coffee shop, meet a guy at a coffee shop, and get into a relationship, and maybe they're my ideal partner, my perfect partner for now. If that's possible, what else is possible?
So let's just distill that down. I think the key word is open.
Yeah.
And what I've actually heard this over and over again in spiritual books, from coaches, from people who are tapped in to this greater flow of energy and resource where there are no limits, is that we have this sacred desire in our heart for something like love. And yet we get caught up in our minds trying to figure out how it's going to happen. How are we going to make it happen? What do we have to do to get from where we are to where we want to be? And there's this kind of this gap. Yeah. And we tend to overcomplicate things, right? Thinking that we really have to make it happen. And what you're saying is to be a beacon of love and for love. The first principle is merely to open.
Yeah, because think of how much pressure you just put on yourself. Not you personally, but when you said this, how much pressure that entails. Like, how do I do this? How do I get into this relationship? How do I get more love? And a little side tangent is love is very different from relationships. And that's a whole different conversation to have, is because a lot of people think that if they have love, then that's the ultimate factor, and that's all that matters, that it'll all work out. But then there's relationships, and then there's good relationships and bad relationships. And just because you love someone in that relationship doesn't mean that they treat you how you should be treated, that they show up for you how you want to be shown up for. And anyway, a side note is that there's just so much pressure by you putting that on yourself. How do I make this happen? How do I figure this out? How do I do this? So maybe if you can just kind of sit back and open and allow, put things on cruise control. Maybe if we talk about traveling, I just get on the plane and I go where it takes me. I don't have to worry about flying it and navigating through the skies or anything like that. That's not my job. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is just to enjoy the ride until I get there.
Okay. So enjoying the ride is a big part of opening.
Yeah.
And okay. So can you give us, let me think about this. I know that in theory, opening to love, it sounds easy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to it, we have these like deep-seated patterns of needing to control the outcome or the experience, or I mean, I know a lot of us are pretty gripped because we don't feel like we can trust that everything is going to work out, or that this is an abundant universe. Do you have a practice or any way to, like, just in a quick moment, to just kind of connect with that quality of being open? Is that something you can talk about? Like, if you were to, for instance, catch yourself in that need to control or in that overcomplication of the mind, what would you recommend for women to come back to that settled quality of just enjoying the ride and presence?
Yeah. So I have a little meditation to share with you that can help with that. And I just want to add one other point to that, is that in what we've talked about, it's always this constant search for love. And we need to switch that back into that love comes from within first. So be the love that you want and show up for yourself before you try to put that externally and say, hey, I need a guy, I need this relationship to feel love. Because guys can pick up on that, and they can see, and it can be anywhere from too much to too soon, or to so many other different things that are coming from that neediness that within. But if like, for instance, if I meet a woman who is completely good with herself and is not expecting or needing anything from me, I'm so much more interested in her than I would be otherwise. So this love meditation that we talked about is, we just want to close our eyes and take a breath into the heart and notice your awareness. And wherever it is, just gently bring it into your heart. And just breathe into your heart and soften in your heart. Allow whatever's going on to be going on, and just be present into your heart. And just keep breathing in and being present in your heart. And you can do this anywhere from a minute to 3 minutes to however long you want, putting your full attention in your heart. And then when you're ready, when you've had enough, just whisper into your heart, I love you, I love you, I love you. And notice how that feels like. and let that fill your whole heart, expanding throughout your body. And then when you're ready, you can just slowly open your eyes and come back to.
There's a distinct shift when we pause long enough to quiet the mind and just kind of allow ourselves to connect with deep time. Well, before we went into that beautiful moment, thank you.
Nice.
You spoke of something that I think is a very real challenge for women, because I think for women, we really want to feel a security, and men are really want to feel freedom. And I think what happens is when we start to feel a connection, that we as women tend to move the relationship faster than men want us to. And what you said was that's really a kind of a turnoff. You lose interest pretty quickly with a woman who is kind of grasping, trying to make the relationship, maybe moving it ahead of where it really is.
It definitely can be. It again, it's very situational. It depends on the relationship and the pretenses going on. But sometimes, again, like this is just purely my experience, the experiences that I've heard of, is sometimes it is that rush, and other times there's that pretext of being like, hey, I'm not open to, where from a male perspective, them saying, hey, I'm not open to a relationship, anything long term, like I'm just good for short term casual fun. And for whatever reason, sometimes women decide that they're just saying that and they can change that person, that guy, to fit that. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But why bother putting in that effort if that's the context of the situation? Instead of giving and giving and giving and giving, and just okay, if that's what you want, go for it. If that's not what you want, sorry, that's not what I want. I need to move on because I'm valuable. My energy, my time is valuable, and I fully appreciate myself enough to stand up for myself and to fully stand in the love that I have to share.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds to me like to open to love takes a real connection to the present moment and just allowing the relationship to unfold without pressuring the other person or bringing your expectations or bringing your ideas to how you're going to change them before you even know who they are.
Even before that, you said to open to this. To open to this, the first thing is to give yourself permission to love yourself, to have this. Mm-hmm. And it's always this external reaching for this love, and because people want companionship. Doesn't matter male or female. People like other people being around them. But then that changes the dynamic depending on your whole life. Like are you working all the time? Do you have a social life? Do you have friends to go out with? Or like, what is your daily life like? Mm-hmm. And then also age is a huge factor. Is someone like women mid-30s are going to be, if they're still single, they're going to be wanting to settle down. So then they meet someone, they meet a guy they click with, and then they decide to make up a narrative in their head without any sort of verbal confirmation. Mm-hmm. And then they move forward from that, and then they get surprised when that's not the narrative, isn't the reality of it. Mm-hmm. So it's first coming back to self. It's always coming back to self. Now that you've opened, now you want to allow. So you want to give yourself permission to have this, for this to flow into you. And then notice what it feels like once you have that love that you want, coming from yourself first. That means you're so steadfast in yourself. You know your value, you recognize yourself, you know your worth, and you are absolutely worthy of the love that you want, and you deserve it. And then you can show up as that. And that doesn't mean coming from a place of entitlement and being like, oh, well, like this is who I am, and da 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 da. No, I'm this person. I know what I have to offer. I know myself well enough to have what I want. And then this list of all these check marks that you want to fulfill, like this, you want a guy financially stable, totally understand that, it's of a certain height, certain physical features, anything like that. Those are just minutia. Is the core of it is, how do you want to feel in this relationship? How do you want this person to make you feel?
Yeah.
And first, give yourself permission to have that from yourself. Support yourself on those levels. Show up in that consistency with yourself, with that reliability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, you hear everyone talking about it now. You have to you have to kind of allow yourself to create the feeling of love first. Establish yourself in that feeling of what does it feel like to be loved before you expect it from someone else, kind of create it for yourself. What does love feel like to me? Yeah. I mean, you hear Joe Dispenza talking about it, like you want to kind of project yourself into the future by imagining that feeling. And then what is it that gives you all these feelings without actually reaching or grasping towards another person for that feeling?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then again, you briefly mentioned, you said the word creator, and that's exactly that. Each person is their own creator. So what kind of life do you want to create? What kind of relationship do you want to create? Don't you think you should start with yourself about how you want to be feeling every day, how you want to be showing up? Because if you're having rough days all the time and you're not feeling happy and good and content with yourself, if you're constantly looking in the mirror and being like, oh my God, look at all my flaws, like I need to go to the gym, I need to lose weight, like all of a sudden I got this pimple right here, whatever it is, then that's making it so much harder. And then what really annoys guys is that sometimes you pick these things out and you call us out on them, when most of the time, if a guy is into you, he doesn't care. And then you don't take the compliment from him when he's like, oh, you look so good, like you look absolutely gorgeous, and you're like, oh, well, what about this, like what about like this little bit of gray hair I have here? And guys don't care.
I love that. Oh my God. That's such a beautiful thing to hear from a man. And it's interesting because we're just living a culture of comparison and judgments. And this inner critic goes everywhere we go. And it's relentless. And I've really become attuned to listening to the way we talk to ourselves, because I know personally that was my something that I've had to overcome in my life, is that negative self-talk, constantly negative self-talk. So it's very important to become aware of our patterns of putting ourselves down at every opportunity, and not being able to receive a compliment.
Yeah. So a good little rule for that inner critic, that negative inner critic, is that if you wouldn't say it to your partner in your relationship, if you wouldn't be like, oh, like I'm probably going to get in a little bit of trouble for this, but like, oh, like you look so fat today or whatnot. If you wouldn't say that to your partner, don't say it to yourself. And that's really what it is. If you wouldn't call these things out in your partner, don't call them out in yourself, because you want to make, why, for what purpose? You that's just going to make you feel bad, and you want to feel good. So what can you pick out that makes you feel good? Like, what do you like about yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or beyond? I don't know how esoteric you want to get, but yeah.
I mean, I think coming to the realization that we are divine beings, that we are expressions of the one, and that is in itself holy. And so to beat ourselves up is almost, it's degrading to that which created us, right? So I think that that's a beautiful way to just be in sacred relationship with life itself. Say, I honor this body. I'm grateful for all that it does for me. I choose to focus on all of the beauty and all of the gifts and all of the gratitude I have for where this body takes me, and finding ways. It's funny because I think that's, going back to the beginning of our conversation, how we tend to overcomplicate things in our mind. And we always are trying to strategize our way into love, when in fact, what if it just began with these little steps, little commitments to speaking kindly to ourselves, to honoring our body for all that it does, to, just receiving compliments. Those three things right there might carry us right into the arms of our beloved if we make that a practice, a holy practice.
Yeah. And just because you do these things, just because you have this contentment within yourself, it doesn't mean that you can't have goals, you can't strive to get better, to look better, to feel better, or to grow on any level. It just means, hey, I'm good now. Like, I'm solid. And I know, like, here's what I want to do to get even better. And it's not even to get better, it's just to, I don't want to say level up, but it is kind of level up. Like I'm good now, but wait until I absorb all this information. Wait until I hit my fitness goals, whatever. Then it doesn't matter. But then that once you have that, once you can own that, be like, I'm good now. Like I have so much to offer. Like, it doesn't even matter. This dude ghosted me. Well, fuck him. Like, he did me a favor. Like, he's not getting back to me, or whatever happens. Like this person is too intimidated by me, or they don't match your energy. That's fine. But you're good now.
Yeah.
And
yes,
actually, sorry, you're fucking great now, and you'll be great later and beyond.
Yeah.
If you open, if you allow, if you let yourself, and if you can let go of that inner critic and whatnot.
Yeah, it just brings me back to your plane metaphor. It's like you're getting on the plane, and to be, where you're going, but to be content where you are is a pretty big part of the key to attracting your soulmate.
Yeah.
To not be so consumed with thinking that you'll be happy once you arrive or once you receive this other person, but actually discovering what it's like to feel good now, and let that be the attracting force, right? The beacon.
And then that pulls into the whole trust issue that you mentioned earlier, is that this is a way for you to empower yourself to trust the choices that you've made and the things that are happening. Things aren't happening to you, they're happening for you. So lean into that. Even those terrible relationships where you're like, oh, if I'd have known all of this back then, I would have done it. Well, you made the best decision you could at the time with the information that you had and the intuitive hits that you had and the way you felt in that relationship, in that situation. And so why beat yourself up? Why go on that merry-go-round over and over again? Because I've done that. It's not fun. I mean, maybe like if you're masochistic enough, then you can enjoy it. But for most other people, I didn't enjoy the experience. It didn't do anything for me other than just make me feel terribly depressed the whole time.
Yeah. I'm curious, do you encourage low stakes dating? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. What do you mean by
Yeah.
low stakes dating?
Well, we're talking about opening to love and letting go of control.
Hmm.
I have this sense that opening to love means that we need to kind of open channels to let the universe know that we're ready for love, and we're not trying to control the situation so much as we're actually open to dating people that we might not have thought were potential partners in the past, based on just being open-hearted, compassionate, and kind, and curious about who this other person might be, beyond my judgments or my idea of them. And I call it low stakes because we don't actually consider them to necessarily be soulmate or marriageable material, but we're willing to kind of move out of the mental, I think I know what's going on here, to actually just getting curious about people and opening up these channels to surprise. So this is very different for men and women, right? Because men are immediately attracted to a woman or they're not. And attraction doesn't build for a man past that initial point. Like, they don't fall in love over time. This is what I've heard.
Okay.
But women are actually the opposite. And so I don't know, why don't you speak on that? What's your opinion?
I'm not even sure how to answer that. I mean, I would call it, instead of low stakes, that'd be low investment, and that's if so from my experiences, women in their 20s, they want a particular type of guy, and then they think they have all the time in the world, and then they get to 30s, mid 30s, and depending on the culture, they're like, oh, I should be married by now, I should have this now. I'm going to start doing this low stakes dating thing that you mentioned, because these aren't real things. These are just made up things, but all the good guys are taken or gay. And so I need to get myself a partner straight away. So I'm going to put myself out there in these situations where I normally wouldn't. And if you're using a dating app, if you have a somewhat fun conversation with someone and you want to see if you actually vibe, if you click, if your energies match, then go for it. It just go something super low investment. Don't do drinks. Don't do anything at night. Do like ice cream or coffee dates. Those are my favorite. Those are my go-to, because you actually you're sober. You don't have to. If you drink, then you drink. But there's just so much safety in those situations. There's no pressure. There's no expectations of it is going to happen. And I was just talking to someone about this the other day. It's like, if I'm going on a coffee date, I'm not expecting that coffee date to end in like a kiss at all, because it just the context, the container of that situation, it's not appropriate. I mean, it can be, but the majority of the time it's not. And then so having that, you can actually see whether you like this person or not. It's low investment because 30-minute coffee. Yeah. If you want to stay longer, you can stay longer. I've had coffee dates go for like 4 or 5 hours. Obviously, those were good coffee dates. They still did not end in a first kiss. Just to throw that out there. But yeah, it's coming back to this pressure, these constraints that you put on about how love can come to you, whether or not they're over 6 foot tall, they're 6-figure earners or higher, they drive a certain car, live in a certain house, they have a dog, whatever. Like, those are just attributes to a person. And again, we want to come back to the whole feelings, right? Because if you want to become a beacon of love, then it starts within. And once you get yourself good, then there's so many possibilities for love to come to you. But if your guy has to be 6'2" or higher, I mean, now you're sending out mixed messages. What do you want? Do you want this love, or do you want this surface level type of thing? And either one is fine. It's not. I'm not coming from a place of judgment. It's just they're very different.
Yeah, I've found that. Well, that's what I mean about low stakes. It's just opening up to more than you normally would, just to kind of get to know people on a deeper level without judgment, and let yourself be surprised. Because I think that's one of the most important things about love, is that we never know where it's coming from, and it's surprising. And it's like, I think allowing ourselves to be curious and surprised and letting go of those expectations are all really wonderful ways to open to love.
Yeah.
So you have an awesome freebie for people, and it's you actually go a lot deeper into becoming a beacon of love. So I'm going to offer that to all of the viewers today. Anyone out there that would like to read a little bit more about Eli's amazing understanding of how to attract real love into your life now. These principles are beautiful guiding principles coming from a man who is deeply in touch with the soul of things. So you can definitely trust him. He has so much to offer, and I'm really excited to share that with all of you. So I'm going to put that in the, I guess I'm going to have to put that in the description. I haven't really figured out how to tap into, oh, wait, look at this. Here's the chat. Oh, look, maybe it'll show us.
Oh, yeah, if you hit the chat and then the stream, we can see everyone's.
It says that there's 10 chats, and I can't see where they are. How frustrating.
Oh, in the upper right corner, there's that chat button.
Oh, okay, look. Oh, you know what? I'm having a delay with my internet, and I hope it's not too much of a problem. But let's just go through and read some of these. It says, This conversation is gold. I'm listening and doing yoga. I wanted to sit up and say that. I think low stakes dating allows us to practice some of the harder aspects of staying in our feminine, which can be so hard if you're not used to it. And especially on guys that we initially consider low risk. AKA, we're not afraid of losing them by practicing these skills before they're honed, right?
You shouldn't be afraid of losing anyone. Don't do that.
Yeah,
that's stepping into.
That's how we describe that high stakes. It's like all of a sudden we get graspy and fearful because we get attached to this person. We want to make the relationship happen. So that's kind of what high stakes is, right? So that's why low stakes is a kind of a gentler way into love, right?
Yeah, let's go back to that. I'm great right now. Like anything that you get externally should either complement that or add to that value, but it shouldn't be hinging or dependent on your value.
Yeah, true. So let's see. It says, open yourself up to being pleasantly surprised and someone you might not be interested in before. Staying available to love, practice putting yourself out there. So amazing live, not afraid of messing things up. And let's see. Someone says, for me, it was not attraction that first drew me in. It was his personality, and the attraction came after that. So yeah. So I wish we'd been seeing these as we went along, but it looks like people are definitely feeling it. Someone says, I believe coming a beacon of love means first being love to yourself and for yourself and all the parts of yourself, the light and the shadow. So yeah, bringing it all in, loving every part of you, even the part that you feel is unlovable, right? And I think that's probably the biggest piece, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and I think I can drop your freebie, in the chat.
Oh, awesome.
And it's kind of frustrating because I have a little bit of a delay going on here, but hopefully it hasn't been too much of a problem.
Not for me
There we go.
at all.
Okay, good. Oh, good. Maybe it's just on my end. Okay, so it's in the chat, your link to your freebie, which goes a little deeper into the principles of becoming a beacon of love. And this has been such a treat, Eli, having you here. And I know clearly our audience enjoyed the conversation and really enjoyed your energy and your presence and all of your wisdom. So I just really want to honor you and thank you for the beautiful work you're doing in the world. And all of our listeners can definitely get on your email list and find out more about becoming a beacon of love through this link on the side. So any parting words, Eli?
I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me, and I appreciate all you're doing as well. And much love and gratitude.
Awesome. Well, thanks to everyone who showed up to be here with us and all of the comments from the group. Wonderful to see you all out there, and have a beautiful evening. And now we get to really dive into being love, practicing love, speaking words of kindness to ourselves, and really allowing ourselves to receive, so that we can open to love, as Eli says. Namaste. So if you can go ahead and end on your end, and then I'll end on my end, and okay. We'll see you soon. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful evening and be well.